All right, we are starting the novel White Fang. Follow along. Questions will pop up as we read, and this is Chapter 1, A Seventh Dog. There was nothing but white as far as the eye could see. Snow and ice covered everything for miles and miles and miles. The trees, stripped bare by the harsh wind, made the land look even lonelier. It was hard to believe that anyone could survive in this place. It was the savage and bitter wild of the north. A team of dogs slowly pulled a sled along the frozen river. One man walked in front of the dogs, and another man walked behind the sled. They all moved slowly. It was very hard work. The men wore wide snowshoes, big heavy coats, wool hats, and mittens. Their breath froze in the air, coating their eyelashes and cheeks with ice crystals. There were no sounds other than their own footsteps in the snow. The two men felt very alone in this silent white land. They began to worry that they would never reach the safety of the next town. They heard a faint cry in the still air. It slowly died away just as the second one rose. The front man turned his head to look at his friend. The cries were coming from somewhere behind them. "I think they're after us, Bill," said Henry, the man up front. "I know," Bill replied. He sounded worried. "Meat is scarce. I ain't seen a rabbit for days." The two men continued to walk in silence, listening to the approaching howls behind them. They both knew there were plenty of reasons to be scared. A great famine was going through the wild. A wild wolf pack had been roaming the land for weeks looking for food. It was a new member of the pack who first noticed the two men and team of sled dogs. She was a red dog who had left her Indian village when food was scarce. She knew the sight and smell of man very well. The days are very short during the northern winters. As darkness fell, the men led their dogs and sled near some trees. They built a fire and started dinner. Bill and Henry had made trips along this river in the winter. They were used to the routine of traveling during the few daylight hours and camping at night. This time felt different, though. With the wolves following so close, they were more nervous about their journey. The sled dogs gathered on the far side of the fire. They snarled and bickered with one another, but showed no signs of running off into the darkness. They knew fire meant warmth and safety in the wild. After Bill fed the dogs, he returned to eat his own supper. His friend handed him a plate of beans. "Henry," Bill said, "how many dogs do we have?" "6," Henry said. "Why?" "Well, I took out 6 fish to feed them, and I didn't have enough for all the dogs." "You must have counted the fish wrong," said Henry. No, I had 6 fish. There were 7 dogs out there," Bill said. "I saw one run off after I got the fish." "Then you're thinking it was—" Henry's sentence was cut short by another cry in the darkness. They both sat perfectly still as they listened. Their sled dogs started to panic as the tiny camp was surrounded by howls. Bill threw more wood on the fire. "So you think it was a wolf from that pack?" Henry pointed out into the darkness. "He'd have to be pretty tame to get that close," Henry added. Bill shook his head. "It didn't look like a wolf to me. It seemed more like a dog." "A dog," Henry said. "What's a dog doing out here?" Bill started to reply, but he stopped. He thought he saw something moving just past the light of fire. He nudged Henry. They looked into the darkness and saw eyes. Several pairs of eyes staring back at them. The red dog took the lead of the wild pack. She had spent many hours near campfires and knew the feeling of warmth and comfort a fire provided. The flames, however, frightened the wolves. In the wild, fire meant danger. It was something to avoid, but they were starving. So they took the red dog's lead and tried to move in closer. "Check for bullets, Bill," Henry said. "How many do we have left?" "3," Bill replied. "We only got 3 bullets left." Without saying another word, both men knew they were in trouble. They tried to stay awake to keep watch, but they were too tired. Also, they knew that the next day would be just as difficult. They would need a great deal of energy to travel over the ice. They bundled into their sleeping bags and fell asleep. The two men felt confident that the campfire would keep the wolves away.